Welcome to Rulebooks and Accessories,
where three nerds play games.
I'll tell you what we think about them.
I waited till you leaned off camera. I was thinking I'm gonna mess them up. I'm gonna get it right. Whatever.
You're never gonna mess me up, man. I'm a professional. Well, first off, we want to thank everybody that watched, liked, shared, and commented on the last episode.
Absolutely.
It was very cool to come out of the box with that many people supporting us, and thank you for watching this time as well.
Yeah, I sincerely appreciate all the support. I was surprised by the turnout at the premiere. The people that stayed the whole time and chatted with us, that was awesome. And then the comments we've gotten after the fact.
Yep.
I really appreciate it. And there's been some games suggested, so that gives us some tips on what we should do next. 100% Candyland. That definitely happened.
It seems like that is it.
I
Gotta be.
This feels like a good time to tell you guys I'm quitting the podcast.
I'm out. Get your stuff. Get out.
You can still do it here. I'm just going to be in the background the whole time.
But until they make a Candyland miniatures game, we're going to be playing A Song of Ice and Fire.
Hold up.
Yeah.
What if we commission someone with a 3D printer to 3D print us some miniatures, and we make the Candyland miniatures game?
I know a guy. We
right,
could really make that happen. Don't say that on the show because now we got to do it. I think we could really make that happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody keep an eye out for the Kickstarter links and the Patreon link because you can be part of this.
It would have to be
not Candyland,
right?
Sweets World. Sweets World. You could be part of it from the ground up.
Exactly.
Can we call it Sugar Ground?
Sugar Grounds.
Yeah, something like that.
Come over here. You'll have a great time.
But now that this recording exists, we actually can't do it because we just admitted
just chop all this stuff out in editing, man. It's gonna be perfectly fine. We're just gonna be suddenly moving like that, and everybody will know that it was edited out.
Oh man! So I never played a miniatures game before. This was my first experience, and based on what I've heard from you, this is a pretty good introduction.
Yeah, I would say so. So first off, A Song of Ice and Fire, Comedy or Not, came out in 2018. It is a miniature battle game, and what that means is think really, really advanced chess. You have game pieces, and you're using tape measures or widgets to move them around the board strategically, place them in strategic positions. You're using dice to generate the combat and stuff, right? So obviously there's no way we can take our little figures and just clang them together, and why would we? They're expensive.
Yeah.
You roll dice to determine combat effects and things, and it's about kind of outplaying your opponent, right? Like who makes the better plays, who sets up better board states, things like that.
Right. This is my first introduction to this type of thing. I've never played 40K or Malifaux or any of the. I've only ever heard those names. I've never even done anything other than drool over how cold the miniatures are, and
they can get pretty cool.
I have no idea the strategy. So that's kind of the thing that struck me right away was I get the mechanics of the game. I get what all the cards do. I don't have it memorized yet, but I understand the card mechanics. But I don't understand the sort of the aspect of approaching your army with my army and trying to figure out how to get you on a flank. And that's the aspect of it for me that's the most foreign.
Well, that takes time for anybody. Even me as a veteran miniature game player, when I get into a new game, it takes a little time to decipher those strategies and, figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with my pieces to get the win. The game is based pretty much solely on the novel series by George R.R. Martin.
Right.
But that said, if you're not a fan of those books or the TV show or anything, this game's still great. It's just a nice low fantasy setting game, what we would call a rank and file miniature game. And what that means is that as opposed to you having a unit of, let's say, 12 models, and each model being its own independent thing on the board and just having to stay within so many inches of other models, they're arranged on this tray. And they're in ranks of 4 models or 2 if they're Cav. And the whole tray turns and moves. So just think like old strategy war meetings where they have the little squares and they're pushing them around, and that's kind of what you're doing in this.
Yeah,
Shuffleboarding them.
Never having played another game like this, I kind of thought that's how they worked.
Theoretically, it's similar to that. Yeah.
Really? So, like, if you have like a group in 40K, do they have to stay together, but only so many inches apart, maybe?
Right. So in a game like that, all your models are taking up their own independent space on the board. And so you got a unit of 10 dudes. Each guy has to be within so many inches of another guy in the unit. So you can stretch them out and make different formations.
I see.
You can't do that in this game. The way that I like to look at it is instead of looking at 12 models on a tray, I like to think of the tray as 12 wounds, like a pool of wounds.
Right. It's like one model with 12 life points,
Right.
essentially.
And that's essentially how it plays, too.
Then another interesting thing about that element, though, is like as you lose, so your abilities on the card will be based on how many ranks you have, which is how many rows, basically. So as you lose life points, you lose ranks, and which makes your cards weaker, or in some cases it may actually are there any that get stronger as they lose ranks?
That's one of the big play styles with the Stark faction is as they lose ranks, their guys get better. They fight more viciously the less there are. Under normal circumstances, if you got a regiment of guys, if 8 dudes are dead out of the unit, the 4 guys left are probably not going to fight as fiercely. You know, they're a little demoralized. There's just not as many of them to hit you as many times.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Bo was talking about there. Every unit has an attacks characteristic, and that's how many dice you're going to roll to try to inflict damage on your opponent. So when you have the 3 full ranks, you might have like 8 attacks. But once that back rank is gone, and when we say gone, we mean like all 4 models removed. One guy which still constitutes a rank. You might go down to 6 attacks. And then when the second rank is gone, you might go down to like 3 or 4 attacks.
Right.
So unit effectiveness is a big thing there.
Having the morale to keep moving. Whereas, some people.
That's another. You mentioned morale. That's another thing about this game is not only do you attack, but every time you're on the receiving end of attack, you have to roll a morale check, which could lose. Yeah, you could panic and lose people, which essentially is you're losing more life. So with every attack, there's the potential to lose even more. It feels really brutal at times whenever that panic sets in.
Well, I mean, this world. No spoilers for the story either on the screen or on the page is pretty damn brutal. And it's not, nobody's safe. So I think that it translates into the game very well. Yeah. For sure.
Right. And as we were talking about play styles on factions, like the Lannisters play style is very, very panic, like influenced, right? Like they're what I would call a control faction in the game, meaning that they control the board state by means other than just killing people.
Right.
Which is what most factions, that's how they would control the game. It's just by killing people. Lannisters have a lot of like panic infusion and like modifiers to panic and lose more wounds from panic and things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think one of the best parts about it is the accessibility, being able to get in, and you're not going to completely have to sell your house to buy all the pieces in this game.
Right.
Like some other miniatures games sometimes tend to do that. You get a starter, which you can open up right there for about $100. You'll be able to get that. And that's got, what kind of stuff does it have in it?
Yeah, so starter box, really good value. Probably, as far as miniature game goes, one of the best values for your buck you can get here. So, like Scott said, around $100. You're going to get a rule book, 2021 rule book if you buy the newer starters. The older ones might have an older rule book that said you can use the app or get it free offline. No big deal there. You're going to get 3 full sheets of tokens to represent all the different status effects in the games, things like that. You're going to get terrain. It's 2D cardboard terrain, and normally I am against that kind of thing. It doesn't. I really like the big forest and the castles, but it works gameplay wise really well with this game, so it's cool. You're going to get the faction cards for your army. You're going to get tactics cards for your army, and then you're going to get around 30 to 33 points worth of models out of the box. And as we touched on, you play 40, so you're almost there. Right. You're also going to get a set of dice, and you're going to get a little measuring stick, a cardboard measuring stick that's 12 inches long to measure all your movements and stuff. So really good value out of those starter boxes for sure.
Yeah, I really think so. And you mentioned that one of the starter boxes actually has 2 factions.
Yeah, there's also a 2-player starter. I forget about it because those 2 factions just got new starters, and I bought them because I wanted cool new models.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, that's an upside, too, is that if you already have the Stark and Lannister box set that's double, you can also get different casts in the separate ones.
Okay.
Yes, it's not exactly the same.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, the 2-player starter is going to come with very much of the same. You're not going to get faction dice. They're going to give you some black dice in that one. But you are going to get about 30 to 33 points of 2 different armies. It's Starks and Lannisters. So if you got a friend that wants to go in, you can both drop $75 on that. It's about 150 MSRP. And you open it up and start playing.
That's pretty neat. But the starter box has the original cast models versus if you buy them individually, you get the new, which is significantly different. You have both, and side by side, they do look significantly different. I feel like
the original models are a lot more static than the newer sculpts. The newer sculpts are a little more free flowing and like dynamic.
Yeah, for sure.
Also worth noting, if you buy and this is really any starter or the 2-player starter up until the Greyjoys, you're not going to get the current cards for the game. They just redid like the rule set and they changed some things. And they changed a lot of units to get the gameplay more in balance with each other. You know, balance is a good thing in these kind of games. Yeah. So they came up with card packs. Card packs pretty good value, $20. You get multiple copies of like all your units unless they're like unique. You get all your NCU cards, tactics cards. You get the whole kit and caboodle, plus some objective cards and hidden objective cards for $20. So you're looking at to get into a faction if it's Lannister or Stark or Greyjoy. And you're buying the newer Stark or Lannister stuff, just buy the starter and you're good to go. Otherwise, you will also need to pick up this deck of cards just to have current gameplay.
Gotcha. So you had to have the new deck of cards for your
I had to
set.
buy a new box. Yeah,
right.
I had to buy a new deck of cards. You can use the app, but there's just something about having those cards out in front of you.
Right,
and being able to just pick them up while you're and flip stuff over and look at them like that. Personally, I feel like you got to have those physical cards with you.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk about the factions that we each played, or you have like every faction.
Well, you played this time around.
While I have a lot of factions, I have pretty consistently played House Baratheon for my tenure. I started playing in 2020 during the pandemic. Me and my buddy John decided we wanted to try something new, so we both picked up a starter. We played a game. We really liked it. We'll get into some of the game balance and stuff later, but I was playing the worst faction at the time, and he was playing the best faction at the time. So I lost a lot, but the game was still a lot of fun. Like it's very mechanically simple and things to learn, and then deep strategy, which is kind of what I like.
Yeah, it is. It's like teaching somebody to play Magic. It's easy to teach. The rules are easy to pick up, but then there's so much strategy that I have not even glanced the surface of.
So I know we don't do like teach to plays here, but I think we should at least touch on kind of like a little bit of that, just so people know what we're talking about more.
Yeah.
So the first thing you would do is you would build an army. And the way you do that is the first thing you do is you select a commander. It's something you have to take. Your commander costs you no points, and then he has to be in a unit. So then you attach a unit to him, and you pay the points for that unit, and typical game size is 40 points. The thing about this game that I like different from other games is it has like a political side. So you have this tactics board, and you have your characters like Cersei or Tyrion, the people that aren't on the field fighting, but they're still impacting this world in a big way. They're taking these zones on this tactic board and giving you like immediate effect on the battlefield. So you actually have two games happening. You have the non-combat unit side, and then you have the combat unit side. So it's an I go, you go game. So like Bo will activate something, and he can just activate a non-combat unit or a combat unit, but then I get a chance to respond by activating something of my own.
Which feels good. You're going back and forth. It never feels completely one-sided.
Right. One of the issues with games we haven't talked about yet that we will is like sometimes it's brutal sitting there for 30 minutes just watching your models die. It's not as fun. So.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Watching them fall one by one.
The Red Wedding. You just always hope the Red Wedding is on the other side of the board.
Yeah, you just hope that's like
the other side of the table. So I picked up the Greyjoy starter box, and I've yet to pick up any additional boxes, but I think that in order to build like a full 40-point army, I basically need to pick up two other boxes, which are much cheaper than the starter box. So buying into the game doesn't seem that hard. I mean, it seems like, especially if you do a lot of research ahead of time to kind of find out what faction you want to play, you can basically get away with buying, those three boxes and you're good. In some cases, maybe even only two boxes, maybe just a starter box and one other, depending on the faction. But what I've figured out is, and I bought my box because it had the best looking models at the time, and it was the newest box at the time that I bought it. And I knew that there was like a change in the cards, and I wanted to get the new cards. So I didn't know anything about the faction. I didn't know anything about like how to play it. I just figured I'd figure all that out after I paint them, because it's going to take me forever to paint these things. And what I have learned now since playing it is that they are They're not quite glass cannons, but they are like they want to come in and attack, and they're really squishy, and like they always want to be attacking. And the good thing is they have lots of healing in their deck, and so the deck of cards that you play as you play the game, you can try to heal your factions or your
units.
You can heal your units as because you're going to lose units. It's just that type of play style where you just are going to plan on losing people, but you're also going to plan on healing those back up and regaining them, and always be attacking. I think that's the strategy of my faction is just always be attacking. And I also feel like they're kind of a little dirty. I think you want to attack, like you want to gang up. I think you want to try to conquer one side of the board first and then kind of work your way over maybe. That's sort of where I'm at right now, is just trying to learn the strategy and trying my best to make the best decisions I can in playing the game. I'm not even at the point where I'm trying to win games yet. I'm just trying to get better at making decisions about how to play.
That's all right. You'll get there. My faction I chose was the Free Folk, which are a giant swarm of a bunch of just think of 1/1 creatures if you play Magic. It's a lot of just throw a bunch of stuff at the target and maybe you'll hit. They do have a lot of really cool stuff to incorporate into that type of tactical fighting as far as bonuses that you can get on charges and how you can loop attacks over and over again that way. I believe they have some stuff where they're harder to demoralize. Is that it? Is that
the morale checks. They're harder to panic.
They're harder to panic.
Free Folk is the faction I know the least
about. Okay, there we go. So read up on that. I did play with one giant. I am looking in the future to playing with a bunch of bears and freaking wolves pulling chariots and mastodons. They're wild. They're all wildlings. Yeah. They're north of the wall, and I feel like playing them once again. I'm going to go at it from a role playing standpoint. Is I like to have my tactics around the way that the actual group is.
I feel like the Free Folk have the coolest, like they got the big mammoth and you got big giants, and like you guys have the coolest, like larger size models.
Yeah, there's a bunch of crazy stuff coming out too. There's been leaks, but that's not much of time to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on what Scott said. The thing that I think is cool about the Free Folk and just really about the design of this game is the way they've incorporated play styles into the armies without conforming to the norms of other games. So, like, if you were going to play a game of Warhammer 40K and you were going to play a Horde army, you might put 150 models on the table. Right. The way that they represent that here is like the Free Folk units their stats are generally a little worse than most other people's, right? They're definitely not an elite army. You might have one more tray than your opponent, but their tactics deck, which is a deck that you get when you play your army, and I'll talk a little more about that in a second, it really, like, it brings units back as they die or summons new units. And he has a lot of mechanics to, like, if he gets 2 units on some guys, he'll get some benefits, right? Yeah. Like maybe +1 to hit, +1, wound, -1 morale, things like that. I think that's really cool how the designers got all that in without making me have to buy 150 models.
Yeah, really. I didn't realize that. Our
there's too many. There's too many of them as one of the card titles because they just keep like respawning pretty much. And it gets you that feel of being in the woods and they're jumping out from behind trees and you don't know where they're coming from because they are being able to get replenished and brought back out.
And I want to say too, I meant to say this at the beginning, but we're going to have to touch on this game again because I feel like I had never played a game of this type before, and I didn't really I felt like I absorbed kind of like what this game feels like to play it, but not what it feels like to be good at, obviously, to be good at it. And I think we're going to have to play it more and then touch on this episode again, like in the future sometime, because this is a game that is just dramatically, it's just more complicated. It's just deeper than just 2 weeks worth of gameplay,
No, yeah, for sure. I would say even like if we took another 2 months and we keep doing our cast and all, but we just get in some games here and there, come back on and talk about it once both of you guys get a little more comfortable with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Once I get a couple bears too.
Yeah.
It's got to be bears.
Duh, bears.
I mean, I really enjoy it though. This is a good introduction for me for this type of game. And the only thing I can compare it to is competitive card games. And it has the aspect of like constantly wanting to get better and to like kind of learn my strategy and like how my deck, in this case a faction, how it works and to get better at doing that. Like to me, that's the appeal of the game. That's what I really enjoy doing.
And to one of the testaments to this with me too, with some other miniature games, it's like you come in and you want to, do I want to play that army? Well, I'll play that army. And a lot of people like meta chase or they'll net deck. This one is making me feel like I naturally want to study the faction that I chose and the different ways that you could play within that faction.
Yeah.
Not so much just going, let me see who won this tournament. No, let me copy that. No, I want to learn. I would want to see who won that tournament so I could use my faction to play against that type of play.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to copy the winner. I want to figure out how to beat the winner with what I've got. And adding on specific extra boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that is for me. That's how it feels. I'm House Greyjoy. I'm House Greyjoy. From now to the end of eternity, it's like I've picked my faction. I'm gonna learn as much as I can about that one. I'm gonna buy those models. I don't know enough about the show to know how.
Rich's standpoint is to just buy all of it and play all of it. Rich's faction is the Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to tell you what factions I don't play, which is Free Folk.
Yeah.
Done. That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow.
He doesn't play the one that I got.
Yet. So when you're building your army, one of the cool things to me is we talked about you have to pick a commander, right? Mm-hmm. So as part of your army, you get what's called a tactics deck. This is a deck. It's going to be of 20 cards. And it's one of those situations where if you put the final card in the discard, you don't get those cards back. They're gone. You don't reshuffle, so you have a limited amount of these cards for the game, which I think is very cool. Your faction is going to give you the core 14 of your deck every time. So your deck doesn't change that much between games, but your commander puts the other 6 in, right? So your standard deck, 14 cards, it's 2 copies of 7 different cards. Pretty easy to learn what those 7 cards do. Well, like in Night's Watch, if I'm playing Alistair Thorne, and I go, I'm going to try Jon Snow tonight as my commander, I get like 3 entirely different cards at 2 copies each, and it changes up the way my deck and army plays. And I think that's a really cool aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like in the faction I got in the starter box, there's 2 commanders, and of those 2 commanders, one makes you better at morale checks, and the other makes you better at attacking. So you could either go all in on trying to go straight to the face, or you can say, I'm going to play a little bit more cautious, and I'm going to be a little bit better at my morale checks whenever I have to do those. So, it completely changes my strategy based on which commander I put.
Yeah, and like you haven't run into this yet, Bo, but one of the other things is like you have some characters that have they'll have a commander version. They'll have an attachment version.
That's right. Yeah.
And they'll also have an NCU version. You're like, which one do I play? Like, do I want steer on my NCU board, like influencing my units to make them better at attacking? Do I want steer in this unit to buff up my units?
Why don't we get into our new review system? We changed it up.
We did. So we got a little constructive criticism from some people, and we've decided to go about a different way here. So what we're going to do now, instead of just giving you an arbitrary number, we all talked before the podcast, and we rated the game on 5 different levels. These are the levels we're going to rate every game on going forward. We're going to have our predetermined rating, but we are going to discuss how we got there and why we got there. And, 'cause we had some very different feelings on some of the aspects of the game. We're going to rate on an A through F system. So an A, that aspect of the game couldn't be better. It's perfect.
Pristine.
We love it. Yeah, it's very pristine. I like that word. B is going to be, it's above average. It's very good. C, it's going to be average. This is really the level that every game needs to be at to be playable. D, it has some issues, but the company could improve it if they really wanted to, so it may have hope in the future. And F is, it's severely lacking, and we just can't recommend it to you.
Yeah.
So let's what did we? And then we have categories as well that we're going to be judging each game.
And we're going to do the same categories every time, right?
Yeah, on all the different games from here on out.
Perfect.
All right, and the categories that we're going to have for each game, which we're going to put these categories across everything else that we're discussing from here on out. The first one is going to be the buy-in cost, which is kind of like we just talked about with the starter boxes and how much value you're getting out of it. The second part is going to be the complexity of the game. Like, is it a Manhattan phone book to figure this thing out? And if that's it, then, it'll be a lower score. But if it's something that you can pick up in an afternoon or maybe, a weekend, it could be a higher score on that one. Then the quality of the game components, which is probably my favorite part in judging a lot of these different games.
The rule books and accessories.
The rule books and the accessories. Are they lame? Are they pretty? Are they somewhere in between the two of those?
Right.
The fun factor, which is another one that I also think is very important, which is kind of self-explanatory when you hear it. I would think, which is also where we had a little bit of a
that's the debate
discussion on this particular game. But
yeah,
which would be, how much fun did you have with it? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, even though some of us don't. But other than that, and then finally, the competitiveness is going to be the last place that we'll rate the thing on. And then once we get all that together, we can, give us you'll get a good idea of what we feel about the game overall.
Yep.
So,
sure.
All right. So buy-in cost.
All right, so we looked at A Song of Ice and Fire in multiple ways, right? Like we have to look at this stuff in a vacuum. And like I play a lot of miniature games, so in my head I'm like, well, it's on the cheap end because it's
right.
All these other miniature games are so high. But in a vacuum, you can also go spend $30-$40 on a board game and have a lot of fun, right? So we ended up going with a B on this one because once again, when you compare it to like some board games and things you can buy, it is going to seem a little expensive. But as far as the miniature wargaming side of things, it's really not an expensive game. We talked about starter box around $100. All you really have to get beyond that if you want to play is maybe like a box of heroes to have some options there and like another unit box to fill out your 40. And that gives you some options.
Right.
You can go ham with it. You can buy everything for a faction.
Yep.
Guilty.
Yeah.
You could buy everything for a faction and not have to put a mortgage on your house, which is the thing
right.
with a lot of other miniature games. It's years worth of building up to get everything, you can't even get everything from a faction in a lot of other games. The game is a little bit younger too, but
yeah, like the way that they have released this, their model is, I'm a really big fan of it. So you got the starter box, that's your big product. They run around $100, right? Everything else, it doesn't matter if it's a unit of infantry, a unit of cavalry, a box of heroes, a box of war machines, mammoths, whatever. They're all $35. And that is a steal for something you're going to be able to open and immediately put on the table and play with.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty relatively good buy-in price. And I think even if you're a completionist, like Scott was saying, you can just complete your faction and feel satisfied.
Have all the options in the world for your pack. Yeah.
And like even when we did our gameplays, we just played starter box games to get you guys familiar.
Oh,
so $100, you're playing with your buddy. You don't have to buy more.
And honestly, at the point that I am with the game, I can't imagine keeping up with another unit. Like that to me, that just adds so much more stress to the turn. Like
that's exactly what I did with mine. Is I bought the starter and then I bought the first box of heroes for it.
Yeah.
The first game that we played together when it was 1-on-1, I just played with the stuff out of the starter box. The second game that I played against Rich, I had put in Seer, he's one of the heroes.
Yeah, he was NCU.
Yeah, he was the NC in it from the heroes boxes. Really great looking miniature too with this cool scythe. But yeah, so I did add one box to the mix, and I of course am probably planning on a whole lot more.
All right, how about complexity?
Well, why don't you do complexity?
I think we touched on it a little bit.
The next one.
I think we touched on it a little bit. It was really easy for me to learn the rules of the game. Having never played this type of game before, there's obviously a whole lot more that I need to learn as far as like the strategy of it. But I think that's more of my noviceness to the genre, not necessarily to this game in particular. And so I think it was very easy to learn. I mean, basically the core mechanics, and it comes with this nice little cheat sheet card. And
you can flip it over, and it's got everything on both sides.
I think it's really easy to pick up.
We're going to get you one of those really big like screw down cases for it, so you can always have your little cheat card. Just boom, boom.
I'm going to frame mine.
Always right around in front of it. So we did give that an A, particularly in that.
Yeah, as far as miniature games go, this is by far the easiest one just to pick up and play that I've ever found, and I've played a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's really, like you said, there is a huge jump. Like, you play a lot of card games, Bo. Mm-hmm. So going from a 2D world to a 3D world, there's a big jump because, like, you literally have to look at things in a different way.
Yeah.
Now you're not just placing your card down and imagining a dragon going to bite something. Like,
you're
physically moving that dragon across the board to go bite something, right?
Right, yeah.
So the ease to get in is definitely there. Yeah, I think two buddies that might want to, like, try this could go buy that 2-player starter. If they got their models out, put them on trays, open up the rule book, I think within an hour they would have everything kind of figured out. The core gameplay is very simple. The strategy for the game is very deep as well. So just because you learn to play doesn't mean you're going to be great at it. That comes with the time. You know, it took me. I lost my first 20 games of this to my buddy John. He just gets it quicker than I do. I need reps to really figure all that out. But that doesn't mean the game's difficult to learn. You know.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But to me, that is the perfect combination. There is it's easy to learn, but you got to pay attention to get great at it. Mm-hmm. See, if it was hard to learn and then getting good at it was nothing and super simple, I would get bored with it and get rid of it right away.
Yeah, or getting good at it simply means that you were able to learn to play.
And also that you can't just purchase a great army. Is that you've got to understand the strategy of it. You can't just go out and buy $1,000 cards and then suddenly just beat somebody because you could draw them faster.
Absolutely. Scott, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, the next one is the quality of the game components. And we gave this
we had a little bit of a back and forth on this one.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a fair C at the end.
Right.
Now a C, you were scared to come home and tell your parents about that, but in all reality, like a C is middle of the road. It's midline. Yeah. It's what it's what a game needs to have in the box. Now, the models are better than most board games that you'll open up easily. But they are not on par with a lot of miniature game, like dedicated miniature game models, which a lot go into those. You are also paying more for those as well. So you've got that balance once again that you have with the first part, which is the buying cost. Now the cards are basically like a card that you'd get in pretty much anything. So it's kind of I'm putting them in sleeves. I don't want them to get torn up.
The art on the cards are nice.
They're gorgeous. The art in this game across the top.
All the art is good. Yeah. The only criticism you could have about the cards would be that they reuse the art from it's the same art that's on the box and in the booklets in a lot of cases.
The physicality of them though, they felt
and the cards are what matters. You know what I mean? They're good. It looks really good on the card.
Now the problem that I had with most of it, of the physicality of it, is the cardboard pieces.
Yeah.
Not so much the terrain because of the rounded corners on it, but out of the box, my ruler was already dinged on one side.
Right.
Out of the box, I had some damage on some of these, and I feel like if you're not paying attention when you're popping them out, you can actually rip off of the top and stuff like that. Now, Rich was saying before, one of you guys, we were talking about this before, is that if you get serious and heavy into it, you're probably going to go to some of these sites and find people that are printing out like actual plastic tokens and the higher dollar, and it's not even that. And it's also cool because it supports independent people. But and you'll buy into that kind of thing.
And
so
we used I keep calling them lazy Susans. It's kind of the joke going around in the game room. But
it's a turntable.
Rich has these little turntables that you could turn they sit underneath the trays, and then you can turn it, on its axis.
Yeah, see,
I can't now that I've played with that, I can't imagine not playing with it. So I would have to buy that.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard. So one of the gameplay mechanics is you have what's called pivoting. So your unit will spin on its center, and it's really hard to do that right without some tool to help.
Right.
Which is why I bought those. So.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. But that's
also, to me, that's another plus to me because I think it's really cool. I bought the turn markers that are the flags.
Yeah,
that you put down. Some people might think that's superfluous or whatever. You just had a little coin to put behind it to mark it. But to me, it just added another part of the visual to the board.
Right.
That there's a flag behind them saying that they, I already moved them this turn.
Right.
So, and also to me, that is a big up because I think that tweaking the appearance of your gameplay and customizing stuff and stuff like that, I think it only makes it cooler. So
yeah,
I like that. But it earned a flat C, I think, very fairly across the board.
Well, anytime you have cardboard pieces, there's different qualities of cardboard. Like I've got some board games with some really top end cardboard. I'm not worried about it. I can just throw it in the box and it's going to be fine.
Right.
This cardboard over time is going to ding up. It could peel if it gets wet, especially. It's not a knock against the game. It's kind of the standard board game quality cardboard on those pieces.
Right.
And that's really kind of what brought it down. That and the fact that if you're buying, miniatures for some other games, you're going to get a higher quality miniature. Mm-hmm. Worth noting on that too, though, when you buy those miniatures, you've got to sit down, you've got to clip them off sprues. You've got to put them together and clean them up. These, you can open the box, dump it on the table.
Yeah, they're already ready
right away.
There's no like prep time on that, which is a plus.
And I enjoy painting miniatures, but I've never painted any of the ones like you're talking about. All I've ever painted have been board game miniatures or like D&D miniatures, and these are better quality than most of those that I've done. So it's not that they're poor quality. There's just better out there.
I'm gonna send you home with a model tonight, and I want you to paint it, and then I want you to come talk to me about it.
Back.
Am I gonna like never want to paint another board game ever again?
No, I don't think so. But I think once you see like how detailed and like and everything is, like I really will. We'll talk after the show.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll put some pictures on social media of Bo's journey through that one there. So what's the next spot we got there? That's yours, Rich.
So this one's really going to be all three of us, right? This is where we debated the most. There are a lot of different views on this one. So this is going to be the fun factor of this game.
Yeah.
I think we settled on B.
Yeah.
Right. But I think we all had some different views.
Yeah. I guess I was the most contentious, and I would say I don't know that I call it fun. I enjoy the game. I enjoy getting better at the game. I like the competitiveness of it, but I don't know that I'm always having fun while I'm playing the game. But but to me, that's true about Magic the Gathering also. Like, what I enjoy about competitive games is learning about it, strategizing, becoming better at it. I love obsessing about it when I'm not playing it. I love being at home just looking at forum posts about different strategies and different factions. That's the fun part for me. When I'm actually playing the game, I'm trying to win. And to me, that part is not as much fun. And so that's why it was hard for me to judge how to grade this.
So what you're thinking is, in order for it to be like an A in fun, it's got to feel like you're going down a hill and your tummy's tingly the whole time.
Exactly.
Your tummy's got to tingle from when you open that box to when you're dead.
To me,
in between the two of those.
To me, an A in fun factor is like probably cooperative. It's something that is like, I feel like I could just introduce to anybody and we would just have a blast playing it together.
But if that's the case, then
I want to ground you into the dirt playing this game.
Your fun level is there's no it's not quantifiable. You can't quantify your fun level because there'll be a certain type of game that you will never have an A on. So it's not the game's fault, it's your fault.
Well, that's why I was saying I think if we compare this to other war games, it's hard for me to grade that because I've never played any, but I could see how this would be more fun than a game where the turns are different. Like, I think that if you got to activate all of your units on your turn and I had to wait on that, that's so much less fun than going back and forth. And so I could see how comparing this to another war game, it probably is a whole lot more fun. But to me, this game is not more fun than playing Zombicide or something that's cooperative because I'm trying to kill you.
So it could never. So this game as an animal could never score higher than something that was co-op.
To me, that's why it's important whether we're comparing it to other games or if we're comparing it to other genres of games or if we're just comparing this to other games in this genre.
All right. So what I just heard Bo say is this game is really fun, but I hate this game. That's what I heard.
No, I like the game.
But this genre.
Like the game.
Now, if we had played this, and the first game you just trashed the hell out of me, just beat me down, would you have put it on a higher fun factor because you won? Because you didn't win. I'll remind everybody. I won the first game.
So far, we've not won or lost any games because we
called it, and I was winning when we called it. So
that's not what That's actually not what I mean. No, even in Magic the Gathering, I don't necessarily think it's fun when I'm winning. I'm telling you, to me, it's just a different mindset. It's just a competitive mindset. Like I'm just trying to win.
So you can't have fun while you're competing,
right?
Okay, let me ask you this. Take every other game you know, throw it out the window. Okay, you come over to hang out. We put our models on the table. We're pushing them around. We're playing each other.
Yeah.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, but it's because of the. Is it because of the company or is it because of the game? Is it because of the company or is it because of the game?
We're not judging Rich and I because we're both perfect 10s and A's and everything.
Okay.
So it's judging what you got in that box and the experience you had playing it, not if we're cool people.
Right. So what I'm saying,
I don't think I could just play this with anybody and have fun.
Okay. Yeah. That's the answer I was looking for.
But I don't think it's that I would never have fun playing it. No.
So what all of our listeners or viewers are hearing right now is like literally we chopped like 60% of this conversation out, and what is left on this spot right here
I'm just going to say,
is the go-to.
I'm just going to say, I give it a B. Cut everything else out.
But you didn't give it a B.
So okay, on my side,
Yeah.
I kind of pushed for an A here, right?
Yeah.
Now, I have a lot more experience in the miniature game field than you. So,
Right,
I played 40K, AOS, War Machine.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of like really down and dirty competitive games. And this game, I still get that feel. And we'll talk about the competitiveness in the next, rating. But like win or lose, I'm usually having a good time because this game always feels like really good and like close. The thing is, like in 40K, you can have that game where you set your army up. You spend hours and hours painting this army, right? You put it on the table. You're super excited to roll some dice. Your opponent goes first and kills half of it. And that's not fun.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't like 40K. I do.
Yeah.
But there can be what we call NPEs, negative play experiences, where stuff like
Right.
that happens. This game, because of the alternating activations, you don't get that as much. So, like, when I do something to you,
Yeah.
you get an immediate chance to respond. And, like, so the fun in it is, like, trying to counterthink your opponent and going, all right, I've got these two options. Which one can I do? Which one's going to affect better? And, like, I guess that kind of thinking is super fun to me. Mm-hmm. It's not to say, like, I'm in a competitive, going to grind you into the dirt mode, just that I enjoy the process of thinking. I enjoy the camaraderie of hanging out with a bud playing this game. And I could play this game with just anybody. I don't care.
Yeah.
Not anybody. There's like 3 guys I would never, and you know who you are. I'll never
No, we know who you are. You're already on the list.
I agree with what you just said. Like, and that's kind of where my aspect, that's why I agree with the B rating, is because even though I haven't played them, based on what I know about other games of this genre, I can see how this is way more fun because of the turn aspect, the back and forth aspect of it.
And I picked, personally, I thought B was very fair. And to me, an A is a game that I am sitting at home and I'm thinking about all the time. A C would be something that I would be like, yeah, it'd be cool if I played it again, but if I didn't, I wouldn't be too pissed either. To me, I feel like it can go to an A with me, though. I don't think it's going to backtrack to a C unless they just completely destroy the meta and some cards or something like that. So right now, I mean, we're not doing like B pluses or minuses, but I'm very happy with the B, and I do feel like that it could rise for me.
I agree. I think as I learn more about it, I will enjoy playing it more. So then we get to a very apropos.
Yes.
This is competitiveness, and we gave it an A.
An A.
So the goal of this game is set your army down
Yeah.
and beat your opponent.
Right.
There you go.
There's no
Not
other
to have
play
fun.
mode.
Right. Exactly. To beat your opponent. I'm sorry.
I hope you guys have enjoyed the second and last episode of Rulebooks and Accessories. This is really cutthroat, just like the world of Song of Ice and Fire. It's definitely how it should be.
The thing for me with a miniature game, and you guys, if you continue to play, we'll get to this point with this game and other games, is internal game balance is very important, right?
Right,
You
yes.
don't ever want there to be a faction where if I put this faction on the table, you're just not going to beat me.
Yeah.
Now, when I got into this game in 2020, and I touched on this earlier, and this is the time for me to talk about it, I picked the Baratheons. I picked the Baratheons because I think knights are cool, right? I was like, they're all knights, man, heavy armor and stuff. I picked them based solely on look. That's how most people pick their first faction. My buddy John picked up the Starks, and it was just the two of us playing. So we played 20 games, Starks versus Baratheons. I won none of them. Baratheons did not feel good. Like,
John is really good, too, though. We need to add that
well,
as well.
I am also okay. But the thing is, I wasn't losing games to him because I was playing bad. Maybe the first 1 or 2, right? But after I learned the game, like I was losing because his stuff was objectively better than mine.
Yeah.
It felt like maybe they were a little overtuned. So we also touched on the fact that in 2021, the game developers did a huge update, right? They rebalanced everything, and the game felt pretty good until it wasn't. Some people found like some strategies, and specifically the Night's Watch faction, that were a little busted. So fast forward to 2022, you get about 8 months of playing that, and then they come up with this 2022 update, which fixes all that, and the game feels good again, right? There's always in miniature games going to be things that people find. The fact that the game developers are seeing that and they're doing something about it helps a lot with that, right?
Absolutely.
So like right now, I feel like I could put a faction on the board versus a faction, and I feel like it's going to come down to player skill more than anything. There are dice rolls, dice rolls are random. You're going to have those games where your dice are bad, but you don't always lose because your dice are bad.
Yeah.
It's the decisions you make on the board, right?
I think that's really important to point out, and I think that's as we move forward with even with other games I think that's an extremely important factor, that you don't feel like because of the faction you purchased, you're better or worse off. That a good competitive game means that how you piloted that faction, it makes a huge difference. There's going to be factions that are better or worse, but they're going to be within some percentage of reason that you can be a good or bad player to make up for that difference.
Right. One of the common things that we say in the miniature gaming community is like the best players at games can take the worst army in that game and run circles around you with it. Right.
Yes,
there are people at that skill level.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't currently feel like this game has a worst or best faction. I feel like each faction has a distinct play style, and that's either going to mesh with you or not.
Yeah. I think that calls for a perfect day then.
So now we have the bit of that this game got 2 A's, 2 B's, and 1 C. So where does that put it overall? I mean, how do you guys feel about the game?
I will tell you that my parents would have cut a flip if I brought home that report card. I never saw that report card.
I never saw 2 A's, 2 B's, and 1 C at all.
Yeah.
I might actually got taken to the Sizzler that weekend. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess the important thing here is this game is going to be for you if you have any interest in like strategy war games.
Right.
If you play any board games that are like versus your friends and you like anything with strategy, this is a really good pickup. Once again, you don't really need to love the universe to like this game. These are knights and soldiers, and it's low fantasy, but there are still giants and mammoths, and one of the factions has dragons and like lions with dudes on horses with whips. Like
they got the dudes with antlers.
Yeah,
those are sick. I want to get those.
Helmets,
that's Baratheons. That's what I started with.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I just decided to make a faction switch. Like I've played a little bit of everything, and I bought a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
but I've really played Baratheons since 2020.
I just want to paint those antlers, baby.
Slap some Wraithbone on those things and just go at it.
So who's this game not for?
If you don't enjoy competitive stuff, right?
I think if you're not interested in a war game, then it's not for you.
Right, for sure.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But beyond that, I think anybody that's interested in playing a war strategy game.
Well, I would say like if you don't like competitive things, like you don't play fighting games online because you don't want to be competitive,
right?
Maybe skip this one because there's no way to play this game that's not fight your friends with your models.
I think we made it to an end of another great episode.
I think
possibly the best episode we've ever had.
I mean, I got a new thing to put on the bucket list, and it's discover what fun means to bow at some point.
I hope that we all really can walk away from this having learned something.
I'm just really enjoying.
That's the most important
I'm
thing.
really enjoying the cooperative stuff right now. Marvel Champions has ruined me. Like that's what I want to do now.
What do we have up next on the docket to play?
Did we pick? We're gonna do an RPG, right?
Was it the RPG or was it a board game?
What? Let's do board game.
A board game,
right?
Next?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Get something that maybe we can cooperate while we play.
I have picked the last 2 games. I'm going to let you guys pick what we do.
All right, Bo. Something cooperative maybe that we could play.
I get to pick?
Game. Yeah, it's all you, man. I'm picking the RPG.
If you say Candyland, coming across
you
this
are
table.
sold. You've got to wait.
If you say Candyland, I'm gonna bring back repressed memories of you breaking my models like 13 years ago.
I want to pick something that I know how to play, so that we don't have the like cram that we had for Song of Ice and Fire, and also I want to pick something cooperative,
so you can have fun.
So I can have fun, and so I think I'm gonna pick Zombicide. Black Plague.
Black Plague. Okay, so we're going.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, check that out if you're ready for it. If you're not ready
also,
for it,
Cool Mini or not, should we change it up to a different company?
I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We're going to cover them all eventually.
As long as we're having fun doing it,
Scott.
Bo. That's what's important. So, guys, please make sure that you click the subscribe button and the like button. That's really fun. There's probably a bell, too, isn't there? Where you can.
I'm not doing the punch thing. I did it, but I'm not doing it again.
The bell thing. Ring the bell.
Yeah. Please
in
do
order
all those
to
things.
Yeah, to get nagged by us.
And always leave us comments suggesting games that we should play.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun. We've got some stuff coming down the pipe that's going to get you guys even more involved, which is going to be so much fun.
Yeah. Leave us comments about Bo's idea of fun too. I would like to discuss that with other people.
Yes. And maybe we'll set up some kind of a voicemail where you can leave audio talking about if you agree with talking about how he's wrong. Then you could do that.
Right. Also, before we end it, so I pitched an idea to the guys. We talked about gameplay clips in the last episode. I pitched maybe doing some stuff on TTS and Discord and like streaming that up. So if that's something you think you'd like to see, let us know down below for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next episode with Zombicide Black Plague.
We could do our dance again. That's what everybody loves about the first video.